Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast for our Paris-Roubaix men and women's preview. The races both on the weekend. Wait, are they on the separate day still, Benji?
Yes, that is correct. Saturday is women's race, Sunday is men's race. So, hey, I like that. I know that Flanders Classics likes it being on the same day because that apparently improves the women's race figures when it comes to viewing figures, but I find it so much harder to follow two races after each other. I feel like it takes away the enjoyment of both races. That makes sense?
I 100% agree. Like, Saturday now, I am going to watch the women's race. That is my day. That is the big event that day, Sunday. And also, you know, we are a very small minority of people, but yeah, covering both, it's very difficult to recall exactly what happened in both on the same day. But I understand both arguments. Either way, Flanders Classics, they have you keep the momentum of the men's race to carry into the last hour of the women's coverage. But we will start with the men's preview. The route is 260 kilometers long. It's a long race as normal, starting in Compiègne. Doesn't start in Paris at all. Goes through northeast France, out to Denain, and then to Roubaix. And on the way, first 100 Ks is up and sort of rolly. It's actually not perfectly flat, but it is for all intents and purposes for these guys flat, without any cobbles. And then there's 30 sectors.
29 actually.
29? Okay.
Yeah.
29 sectors before finishing in the velodrome in Roubaix. 3 of those sectors are 5-star sectors: Trouée, Mons-en-Pévèle, and Carrefour de l'Arbre, the first of which starts with
100?
About 100 Ks to go, more or less. But if you divided this route into phases, Benji, how would you divide it up?
So with those 29 cobble sectors in the last half, I'd say that about 9 of them is fitting the herd before we arrive at Havre-Wallers and Trouée d'Arenberg, which is sector 20 and 19. To be clear, they count down the sectors. So the first one is 29, the last one is the last one, which is sector 1 before the velodrome. Trouée d'Arenberg and Havre-Wallers, those ones are kind of the gates to hell, is how I perceive them. And afterwards, you've got the first 2 sectors, which is sector 18 to 16 to 15, which I would consider the phase where outsiders can play in. But once you reach Mons-en-Pévèle, you're probably going to see favorites attacking. Even in the Orchy sectors, with about 60k to go, you tend to see not GC action. No, I was going to say GC action, but this ain't no stage race.
Well, the time counts.
Yeah, the time does count. But the favorites attacking is how I say. So that's how I would split it up. Is that the same how you would split it up?
Yeah, I would agree with that. And the Mons-en-Pévèle, the 5-star section is actually quite spaced out. But the closest 2 are obviously Mons-en-Pévèle and Carrefour de l'Arbre, which are within about 30 Ks of each other in the last hour and a half of the race.
Talking about each sector, we know what they're like now. How do you perceive their difficulty level? Because I feel like Trouée d'Arenberg is like above the other 2.
Yeah,
I think Mons-en-Pévèle is the easier of the 3, but are they rated based on solely the difficulty of that cobble sector, or also including the place in the race?
I mean, yeah, maybe, because like Trouée d'Arenberg, it's 2.3 Ks, but that is significantly harder and more difficult and dangerous and decisive for the race, often even 100 Ks to go, than the other 2. Certainly, Mons-en-Pévèle is 1.8 sorry, not Mons-en-Pévèle. Carrefour de l'Arbre is 2.1 kilometers. It's shorter. It's nowhere near as difficult. But then I think, to your point, Benji, Carrefour de l'Arbre comes, 2 Ks? 2.8 Ks straight after Mons-en-Pévèle, a 4-star sector, and it comes with 20 kilometers left to go in the race with 4 hours done already, 4.5 hours done already. So maybe that's it. It's having such a hard sector deep into the race. But yeah, as you said, like Trouée d'Arenberg really should be a 6-star sector if that rating existed. A couple of new sectors have come back in according to the A.S.O press release. Who say that the distance covered by the cobbles is slightly longer this year compared to last year. They say that the riders will get reacquainted with the Briastre sector and the Boîte Hamlet sector. But they're not far into the race.
Yeah.
They are
sector 24 and 26.
Yeah, so they shouldn't be too. They're just back in, I guess. Neither of them. They're 3-star. And can I count? What was the other one called? Brute Hamlet. Can't see Brute Hamlet on their list. Anyway, the big news regarding the route is it dropped yesterday, and it was from, I don't know who initiated it first, but basically the CPA, I may as well, I should misquote dear Mr. Hansen, because I don't want to leave out his tweets are sometimes a bit unusual. So no, first it came from Paris-Roubaix, the official Twitter account. For safety reasons and following a request from CPA Cycling, the riders' organization, the riders' union, the Paris-Roubaix organization is modifying the approach to the Trouée d'Arenberg. The route will take a chicane just before the entrance to the sector in order to slow the speed at which the riders enter the sector and limit the risk of crashes on the cobbles. And when I first saw that, I thought, okay, fair enough, no problem. Yeah. And then, yeah, Adam Hansen said, the CPA acted on the riders' instructions. The riders have concern about this sector. And to give context for this sector, what normally happens is they come in a straight line over a railway crossing.
Correct.
It's like downhill, false start downhill before, straight line, quite a wide road. And then they hit this sector without turning, Trouée d'Arenberg, at like 60 plus doing sprint lead outs, often in 100 groups of 100 plus. And the first 400 meters of Trouée d'Arenberg is fucking downhill, like literally downhill. And the cobble, and as I said, it has the craziest cobbles, the biggest cobbles, and we've seen horrific crashes there. And what happened last year? Was it Fred Wright went down?
Yeah, Fred Wright went down and his bike just collapsed from under him, like straight up. It wasn't really him like steering in the wrong way and going in the wrong direction. No, the bike just disintegrated, like you mentioned the other day. And there was a video that came out. Stefano Rizzato from, I think, Rise Sport uploaded a video of what the chicane, is what they call it, would look like. And like, I know there's this kind of traffic island at the entrance of Trouée d'Arenberg, but I wasn't expecting the chicane that they're talking about to be. You cross the railway, which is about 50 meters before the entrance of Arenberg, and then you've got what I would say a 90-degree corner to the right, an instant U-turn, and then the 90-degree corner on the right straight onto the cobbles. And that's not a chicane, my dude. That's a U-turn just before the cobble sector. And I'm all for safety, but this video does bring ideas into me that I'm fearful of the peloton breaking on a railway to then turn into a 90-degree corner, which, okay, that might be okay, to then have to go through a braking point, a full-on braking point U-turn before they have to turn onto the cobbles to the right again.
It's the craziest
There
shit
must
I've
have been
seen.
safer options. Like, we've had the proposals before of like doing Arenberg the other way around, so you don't have that descending start. That that you'd have a corner before the run-in if you do that, and there's other ways you can do it. There's like a mining site at the entrance where they currently go into Arenberg. You can use the parking lane after the mining site to go around the building to introduce a corner before the entrance. But sorry, but
this is a cyclocross turn. It is. It is a complete 180 turn, very narrow, where they're going to go right, left. It is a cyclocross turn. Only one rider will be able to get through, and the road surface is sketchy. When I thought they were doing a chicane, what I thought they were going to do, Benji, was come not over the railway, but come from the east along the other road and turn right into Trouée d'Arenberg. Because the reason it has to slow the speed down, right, is because if you hit that 60, someone is going to go down through no fault of their own. Someone will crash. And last year it affected the race, not just Asger and Van Baarle right going down, but then everyone behind that crash was out of the race gone, finished, 100 k's to go, and the bikes, a lot of they run different widths and pressures and everything. They are not. I'm sorry, I do not believe the bikes are designed to hit the cobbles at 65. Oh no, sorry, to hit the Trouée d'Arenberg cobbles on the downhill at 65, and it is literally Russian roulette. Laporte has lucked out on that Russian roulette. Like, you just see people's bikes collapse. Like, he was the Israel rider, his front wheel just disintegrated on this sector. So I completely agree with trying to decrease the speed. I thought they would come from the right angle and have to turn into it on a real road. And there is a divider there. But this, I mean, Van der Poel, what was his reaction? He said, "Is this a joke?"
Yeah, he tweeted.
Even though this suits, by the way, this suits Van der Poel, because they'll have him at the front, and he'll go through that turn quickest. It suits him, by the way.
And then Dylan van Baarle posted the opposite, posted a thanking emoji towards the.
I thought that was prayer. That was praying to Jesus.
I actually think it was thanking, because Richard Plugger from Visma Lisa Bike was also being thankful for the initiation for safety, with plugging the safer organization again and so forth. But Dylan van Baarle, this is the worst case scenario, right? Because he's unlikely to be in the first 30 riders going into this. Looking at how he rode in RVV when it comes to his positioning, he's going to be in the last few riders going into this. So he's going to be fucked with this change.
Yeah, it's exactly as I say. It benefits Van der Poel. Now, when did you find out that Trouée d'Arenberg was going to be used in this race, Benji? Was that news to you?
What do you mean? That this sector was going to be used?
Yeah.
No, that was not news to me. What is that for a question?
Well, I'm just saying, why was this announced yesterday?
Yeah, that I fully agree with that. My first reaction when this came out was not, is this safe or not?
When everyone knows it's dangerous, you could change it in October, man.
It's 360 days since the last Paris-Roubaix. Why does it need to be announced on the last Wednesday before the Sunday where the race is ridden?
And they
I do not understand that. And then the question is, okay, the race organization might have decided it in the last week because they had to go through the local authorities to see whether that would work or not. But
but they couldn't. Benji, they couldn't. That's the problem. They haven't changed the route. If they had more time, maybe they could then do the route I said from the other way.
Yeah.
But with shorter notes, you have to basically, they're not doing a different route. Instead of just going straight over I saw a funny video of a Formula One video of where someone that just went straight and a turn, and it was like, Don Ivan Garcia Cortina he will be like, fuck your chicane. I'm going straight to Trouée d'Arenberg. My GPX file says I go straight. But yeah, it's like, come on. Maybe it's good. Maybe it's good. Maybe we're overreacting. Maybe we don't understand. But this chicane
like?
Looks sketch.
You know what this smells like? We see this quite a lot, I think. The CPA goes to A.S.O. or goes to a race organization to get a safer result, and they get the middle way instead. That's what this feels like.
Yes. Yeah. Where they're like, I mean, that happened with, what was it?
Some Giro thing, I think. No? Or with the
the Crans Montana stage in the Giro. And they still did the dangerous descent. Anyway, will it change? They will be scrubbing off speed, but now basically there's going to be a huge fight for that pinch, because that is the craziest. It's a choke point. That's the craziest choke point, and literally every DS is going to tell their riders to be at the front.
Yeah,
like really like at the front there. So we'll see, but maybe you'd rather crash there than crash on the cobbles, I guess. I
think that's an argument. That's an argument that some riders will say. I'd rather prefer to crash at, let's say, 45k an hour in that corner than at 60k an hour on the cobbles. Because if you crash on the flat, I think Terpstra said this in some article or podcast or whatever, I just saw it being referenced on Twitter, that you get contusions and abrasions and so forth on the asphalt, and historically never fractures. And then on the cobble sector, you're more likely to get fractures because you hit the actual cobble, like on the corner, stuff like that. So if that argument, I understand, but I fear for crashes anyway. And I hope that no one crashes here. That's my feeling about it.
Yeah. Last year, in fact, Jumbo-Visma, in anticipation of Arenberg, jumped on Haveluy-Weller and created a split before this sector, and in 2023, and that they were with Van der Poel and no, they weren't with Philipsen. It was just they were actually just with Deg, John Degenkolb, and I can't remember if Ghana even was there, but it was a very, very small group. Might have even been 4 guys. And then on Arenberg, Laporte punctured anyway. And then there was the crash on Arenberg. Vermeersch and Philipsen got across. Ghana, Pedersen got across. Strongman group with those big boys in Kung, and got across the breakaway with Valscheid. And Alpecin rolled through, and Van der Poel, and then on Carrefour de l'Arbre, he was going to go, bumped shoulders with Degenkolb. Van Aert attacked, punctured, Van der Poel won. And but that was a decent addition, but you could see that, you know, Visma attacking on Haveluy-Weller in anticipation of Arenberg probably did that for a reason. Maybe we'll see that again even this year from... I mean, Alpecin don't need to do it because they can just
I don't see it.
Why would they do it? They position Van der Poel so well anyway.
Yeah, I agree. And we saw that 2023 feeling, and obviously it depends on whether it's rain or dry, because that does affect the race. But when I look at well, before we jump into rain or dry, very quickly, when I look at the favorites, I'm thinking Alpecin with MVDP, Jasper Philipsen, Little Trek with Pedersen, and even Milan, because it's a much flatter race. So in my head, that should work better. Technique-wise, I'm not 100% certain when it comes to Roubaix, but he handled the cobbles in RVV very well, but that's different material. Like, these teams, at first glance, don't shout like teams that necessarily want to open it up early.
Yeah, I agree, because like there's no Van Aert here. Let me look at the provisional for. There's no. I mean, yeah. I was going to see if Laporte's in the provisional. But yeah, it's Alpecin. I think Alpecin have the top 2 favorites. Like when I look at the betting market, it's Van der Poel at $2.60, Philipsen's at $5, which did very. I mean, I think it was even shorter. That was crazy to me. Pedersen's 3rd favorite at $7. He was a bit longer before. Degenkolb 4th favorite, which is also
awesome.
surprising. I mean, yeah, but that doesn't mean he's going to come top 3 or 4, Benji. That's just what the bookies think. I mean, I do not agree with it, but he's on 15. Ghana.
Mate, he would have won last year, and then Van der Poel crashed him out.
Facts. Ghana's 5th favorite didn't even... I don't think he's doing this race, so that goes to show what's... I'm pretty sure he wasn't doing it. Niels Pollitt on 26, Bettiol 26, Van Baarle 34, Moritz 34, Milan 34, Tarling 34, Merlier has shortened a lot. He was a lot longer. 34. Lawrence Rex 41, Kung 51. That's somewhat surprising to me that Tim Merlier starts this race shorter than Stefan Kung.
Yeah.
Michael Berg 51, Lampard 67, and we'll get into some roughies later. But I fundamentally disagree with Philipsen being shorter than Pedersen. I don't know how you get to that. I think last year, like Philipsen made the split, Benji, because of the chaos on Arenberg, which is not always replicable. Alpecin being in good position will be replicable. Philipsen being quite good will be, or very good, will be replicable. But in the end, he had a magic carpet ride from Arenberg onwards. Not pulling too much, not closing attacks in the wheels. And it was actually a very stable race because Alpecin were controlling it all the way, basically, to the last climb, to the last 5-star sector. And anything that happened in between was Van der Poel jumping and Van Aert closing him and Philipsen in the wheel. So I'm really surprised to see him shorter than Pedersen. Pedersen, who's in good form.
Yeah, and looking at that, I agree. I think Pedersen is definitely a very, very good rider for this parcours. I think this fits him much better than RVV. He's had bad luck in previous editions. Rowe crashing him out on Trouée Arenberg, for example. That 1 year where he crashed out before Arenberg even began because he crashed on the right side of the road into some kind of like, I don't know what it was, but into something in a rather big crash early on. Like he has bad luck in the past. In other editions, like last year, I was expecting him to be tiny bit better, to be honest. Because last year I was expecting more from him. But then looking at it this year, maybe the playing bookmaker's advocate for a second, Philipsen can benefit from Van der Poel being in the race. As in, Van der Poel is the rider that would be the earlier attacker looking at that team, trying to get the other favorites out of their nests, and then the favorites that are not with Van der Poel need to bring themselves back to Van der Poel, and Philipsen could be sitting in the wheel. We've seen this numerous times in this race before, that you get the kind of scenario with where someone benefits from sitting in the wheel at the back of the race and then returns and does something magical. We've seen this before, and that is not unlikely to happen. I think the Gilbert Lampard year, if I recall correctly, is that a year that existed? I think it existed back in 2018, pure guess. Like, those kind of years had those vibes. But there's also a whole other aspect to this race where it's not always the favorite that wins this race.
No.
And that's the beauty of it. My favorite edition of Paris-Roubaix, when it comes to the race, not when it comes to the winner, I will solemnly hate the winner for the rest of my life as a Tom Bonen stan. Paris-Roubaix 2016, when Matthew Hayman won from the early move, early breakaway, stuff like that. We've had numerous moments like that, where he gets into the final, the favorites catch up, and then it's like a mano-a-mano battle on the last couple of sectors, even leading towards the velodrome, where it was fought out in the end. Bono was boxed in by the evil Belgian called Sepp van Marke, traitor of the country, and that's how Matthew Hayman won the race. And that is my favorite edition of Paris-Roubaix that I vividly remember. And I think that's also the beauty of this race, that there's unlikely riders that will step up, or maybe likely riders that will step up and beat her in the final. We saw other moments like 2011 where Van Summeren, for example, after Arenberg on the big road, decided to anticipate together with some other riders, got ahead, and he was never caught again. And those editions are the ones that stay in your mind. Not for me the ones where the favorites win, but the ones where you got the upset. You got the riders that are not expected to be there that suddenly hammer it home. And that's why I love this race. That's why Paris-Roubaix is my favorite race. And I think there's also people like that on the start list. And Laurens Rex?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Laurens Rex he's kind of just good now. Laurens Rex, he started the week top 10 in the odds. So he's not even like a real big underdog anymore. But he is obviously if he won the race. But yeah, Laurens Rex, he's good as hell. Like, and there's just a lot of riders, right, where they cannot do the repeated 2-minute power, or not even 1 minute power that RVV demands of them. They have a very high absolute threshold. They weigh 80 kilos plus, maybe 85, 87 kilos. Laurens Rex, a big dude. And they just cannot do the watts per kilo on those steep Flandrian climbs to follow the Van der Poels, who are 75 kilos. But technically, they're very good. On the cobbles, they're very good. They got that dog in them. And that's why we see, literally, there's Roubaix special. Hayman was a Roubaix specialist.
Yeah.
Like, yes, his win was, a very big underdog story, but he came top 10 in other years. Like, he regularly was good in Roubaix. Yeah. And Laurens Rex, I think, is that type of operator. And
Riley Sheehan.
Yeah. Oh, we'll get to we're going to go do the roughy discussion.
Am I stealing all your picks, my friend?
Well, nah, Sheehan, I'll give you up, but I'll. That's my favorite part of Roubaix. But we'll just go through maybe more the proper favorites team. So Trek, Milan, and Pedersen. I think their team is going to be very, very good because there's riders like Darnola who are even better in Roubaix. Like, you put Darnola in the early break here, nasty. Trek, I think, should have a very, very strong. I can never find Trek on the because I'm always looking for red and they're not red. They got Edward Turns as well. It's a blue kit predominantly. Alpecin, Vermeersch, Philipsen, Van der Poel, very, very good team. Vermeersch this is probably his best race as well. He's so good in Roubaix. Van der Poel. What do you think? Trek, I don't really know what they're going to do. I think actually I'm worried Trek are going to try open up too early, like Pedersen does in the Belgian classics, and I think that's actually unnecessary here. I really don't think he needs to do that. I would go deep into the race and try and keep Milan with him and then try play Milan later because Pedersen can win the sprint against Van der Poel, as we saw in Gent-Wevelgem. What do you think Alpecin will do?
Well, firstly, I agree with your little trek theory. That's one of the reasons that I don't expect those two teams to open it up early necessarily.
Yeah.
And I think Alpes and the Koenig will have to trust that their riders are strong enough to beat the others in the first place. Because when it's wet, when the road is wet, when the cobbles are wet, Mathieu van der Poel has a significant individual advantage over other riders in this peloton when it comes to technique on the cobbles. That's how I perceive it. Will be easier for him to ride away on the cobbles if it's wet. If it's dry, that distance is lower. So then it matters of how long they can control the race as a team before Van der Poel makes a move. That makes sense because it's not just the cobbles, but I expect teams to try and benefit from the portions between the cobbles, maybe just after a cobble sector.
Like 22.
Try and, what, sorry?
Like 2022 when he and Van Aert had no teammates in the last 50, 60 Ks and Van Baarle, Koen, Moritz were attacking them between the sectors.
Exactly. Those kind of moments, you kind of need to have Van der Poel attack just before that moment to reduce the group enough to be able to make it a controllable group. And then you hope that you still have a Philips and a Vermeers there to help you control it. That's a scenario I'm looking into, I'd say, when it comes to Alpecin. So it's about finding the balance of where your team won't be able to control it anymore and then make a move, which I think is around Orchy, Mons-en-Pévèle. Between those sectors, I expect the first attack of Mathieu van der Poel.
Yeah, that sounds about right. What's that, 60, 70 Ks to go? He usually does one. It's like a thinning attack, like he did on second Quarmont. He thins it, so it's controllable. Okay, Kung, maybe and now that Tarling, we'll rotate with him. We don't have teammates either. We'll keep in front of the chaos behind. Then he gets to the last 2 5-star sectors and he can really end the race. Probably he's looking to go on Mons-en-Pévèle or Carrefour de l'Arbre, which is what happened last year. He went on the last 5-star sector and Van Aert punctured. Trekker got more options, but then there's Philipsen. Maybe we're underrating Philipsen. Maybe he can. That he's a sprinter. I think they keep him in the wheels.
Favored. Yeah. Yes, but once you reach a group small enough that you could consider rolling attacks, I think they will make that decision.
Yeah. Other teams, so Visma obviously do not have Van Aert. I don't know if Jorgensen or Laporte are starting. They got Van Baarle, who's obviously a previous winner of this race only 2 years ago, but he struggled with positioning so far this season. There's Movistar, the newfound classics team with Garcia Cortina and Lescano as the two big leaders, and Norsgaard will try to get an early break. Quickstep got Lampard, Merlier, Asgren. I think Merlier can be quite good. Lampart's not look so good. X, Varenskold, Tiller, Christoph, and I don't know. It kind of seems quite thin. Is
Paulit? Wellens?
Paulit's come second in this race before. I think he'll be better than Wellens.
I think so too. On
Morgado. How will Morgado go?
Del Toro and Morgado, I feel like they've got the opposite schedule. Del Toro's riding everything that is not a one-day race. Morgado is riding everything that is a one-day race at this team. What even has a smell of cobble, Morgado is riding. And every single time he looks depressed on the starting point, he'll go, I don't like this parcours. I don't like riding in the cobbles. I don't like riding in the rain. And then Morgado does fucking well and gets 5th in RVV. So I don't know. He might get 5th in Roubaix. I think Roubaix fits him a bit less than RVV in my head, at least. But don't let that stop you, Antonio, because I do believe in you. But I agree, Anna. I've seen a lot of people in the last few weeks, like 3 people on Twitter, say something along the lines of, Roubaix, one of the weaker monuments because the start list is always super weak. And I don't think it's one of the weaker monuments, but I might actually agree that there's an argument that the start list is not the widest every year, which is because in our review, you've got the punchy plus flat cobbly types. Well, here you have the flat cobbly types in a race. And then some other riders might skip Roubaix because they might feel like RVV and Amstel and Flesch might fit a bit more together than fitting it together with Roubaix, for example. And I think that's the argument. Some riders are worried about
crashing, like Ganna. He should be here, also, by the way.
I agree, but my opposite to your argument, or to that argument at least, is while the start list might look thinner, I feel like the list of potential winners is much bigger.
Yeah. Well, there's Van der Poel is shorter for Tour of Flanders, and he's longer here.
Yep.
Maybe that's because Philipsen. But
Also
yeah,
because of the
I agree.
parcours. It's more selective RVV, and here you've got the chance to anticipate and be there while you might not have expected it the same morning.
And more randomness can happen, which is good or bad depending on which side of the coin you end up on. Fred Wright and Morris for Bahrain victorious. Seneschal Biermans and Mozzato second in RVV for Arkea B&B. Decathlon with Gotera, Naesen, De Pestel, Bosenhagen, and Pollefleet. On the provisional, Kung leading Groupama FDJ. I don't know if Pithy's doing it or not. I don't think this suits Pithy as much as the Belgian classics. Intermarché with Hugo Page Teunissen, who I think has come. I think he's 11th and 7th in the Paris-Roubaix, but that was before 2020. Bini and Lawrence Rex. Lawrence Rex, I dare say, should be their best rider for this. He came 9th last year, and he's in better shape this year. And compared to that, Jayco, I don't know if Bling will do it, but they'll have Reinders and Valscheid.
Doesn't fit him anyway.
Yeah, I don't think it suits Blink so much, but I assume Valscheid will be doing this. He was in the break last year, actually. Q36 will have Steimler, De Vrint, and Sheehan Hofstede for Israel in the provisional. DSM will be led by Degenkolb, and Ineos will have Tarling and Ben Turner. I don't know about Chef, but certainly Tarling and Turner, yeah. And then EF, Bissiger, Bettiol. Bettiol looked very good at the end of Roubaix, at the end of Tour of Flanders, sorry. And Bora will be Jordi Meus, Herzog, Masiuk. I quite like Jordi Meus, actually, given that he came third in Gen Wevelgem and second in Kuurne. He's not in bad classic shape. He's just huge, and this suits him better. So, which team shouldn't be trying to go in the early break, Benji? I think it's going to be a huge fight.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's always a huge fight when it comes to early breakaway at Roubaix, because a lot of teams realize that it's an opportunity to get deep into the race, but that also means that you might ruin your chances with those riders before the cobbles even start, because you're going to spend so much time trying to get in the breakaway that will get countered by the other teams that are trying to get in the breakaway. So it's not that Alpecin will have to control the entire break formation by themselves. Everybody will control it for them for a specific amount of time, because 10 riders might go, but the other 7 teams might not be in it. And then it keeps on going like that, and that's how the break formation will probably last an hour. Because last year was probably the longest it lasted in a while, because I swear we went into the cobbles with like 3 minutes or something. So that's the vibe. And it's not just creating the gap. If you're in the breakaway, also every single cobble sector, the peloton comes closer, especially on like Haveluy, on Trouée, to the point that on Trouée d'Ardenberg, I feel like if I think through the older editions, there's always a maximum gap of like a few minutes, and sometimes it's 1 minute, sometimes it's 45 seconds, and it's all about trying to keep that gap across the cobble sector, because after the cobble sector, the tempo might die out a little bit. We've seen that a few times before, and then you might create your gap again and survive until the next cobble sector, and that's such a beautiful vibe of this. Sorry that I'm loathing over this, right? I don't know what loathing means, but I just
loathing means you despise it.
Fuck.
I think you meant opposite. I think you meant lusting.
Not sure about that one, but
yeah, well, I mean, you really like Roubaix.
I will say, I like Lascano for this. Like,
I don't know about Lascano.
Mate, there's no Koppenberg to walk on.
Technically, he's not so good. He really isn't that good technically. That motherfucker has his 20-minute power. Lascano, his 20-minute absolute power. I swear to God, it might be bigger than Van Aert's. Like, the guy has unbelievable absolute power, but like you saw in some of the Flanders moves, he's like dangling off the back, not drafting properly. I don't know. But you're right, he has to go in a Van Baarle move.
Because Ganna last year was also there, and his technique is also not godlike.
I think it's better. I think Ganna's a better bike handler than Lascano.
Okay. How dare you? The Spanish despise you already. They loathe you.
I think they'll agree with me. No, I like Lascano. If he gets in an early anticipation move, like you said, then that's the best way for him to do it. because he can't sprint. He's like Van Baarle regen. Why don't we go through? So yeah, I think I see a pretty conventional race, like you said, Benji. Break, big fight for it. Strong break goes. Doesn't get too much time because it takes so much time to go. Alpes in control. They got Dillier, Gogol. Their team is stacked for this. Kielich, Vermeersch. They control. They enter Trouée D'Arenberg in good position. That thins out the peloton. Maybe then Van der Poel drops a bomb to open it, or in Orchy, and then it gets thinned out again to the real favourites. Maybe they catch the break in that phase. Then Van der Poel tries to attack, or Trek try to do something. I see quite a conventional race in theory. But let's go into some. This is my favourite part of Roubaix. I'm gonna throw some names at you.
Okay.
Yannick Steimler, Q3 6.5.
Breakaway?
He won GP Denain. He's got to be in
but
that
everybody
breakaway
crashed out.
of GP Denain.
Yeah, the entire phase crew behind him crashed out. So, but I agree. It might happen here.
Adrien Petit, third in the GP Denain in 22. You know what he did a month later? Sixth in Roubaix.
Yep.
So I like Steimler. I like Tim van Dijk. I'll let you have Sheehan.
You'll let me have. Can I have some riders myself? Can I name some riders myself, my friend?
Okay, you go. I've already picked two. I like Van Dijk and Steimler, but yes, go on.
Well, I said Sheehan. I said Laurens Rex. I don't care that he's higher in odds than you'd expect, but I'm naming it anyway. Someone like Cedric Beulens, but he's hit his knee a few times the last few months, so I'm not sure if that's going to be on the level that I was hoping for at the start of the year at this race. So those are at least three names going into it. I also expect a good race from Naesen, but the problem is from Oliver Naesen that I feel like he always rides conservative, which is good to get that top 10 position and win a group sprint behind. But you're also never in the position where you're actually competitive for the race, you know?
Yeah. I agree. I'm not
He's
sure.
Always had bad luck in this race. Broken steers, broken handlebars, broken frames, broken wheel sets, tires that are mechanical, stuff like that. And every edition, like 2017 was a disaster. Every single cobble sector, the guy had bad luck. But there has to be a year where he doesn't have that. And I hope that's this year because of the Van Rijssel bikes, come on. But
yeah.
And because of the salary, that's moving the needle.
Sander de Pestel, also in Decathlon. I mean, he won Antwerp Port Epic, which isn't on the road surface the whole time, so I just throw that out there. But I don't really like him as he doesn't have the form as Steimler.
We've spoken about this man numerous times as a time trialist, and every single time we mention him as this guy should try Roubaix at some point in his career. Josh Darling, like you already mentioned, he got 17 RV, he got 6th in Dwars van Vlaanderen, and his kind of characteristic is that he doesn't have acceleration at all. He's like, he attacks in slow motion is how I perceive Joshua Darling. And I am very much looking forward to see what he can do on this parcours because
I can't wait.
He's got the perfect build for this, but does he have the technique? I don't know.
Yeah, he's Cancellara regen, so I can't wait to see how he goes. Turner's also in very, very good shape. So I'm excited even without Ganna. I mean, if Ganna was there, Ineos team would have been unbelievably good. Like, it's a shame Ganna's not racing, but still, I'm looking forward to seeing Turner and Tarling, what they can do. Abrahamsen, I really, really like. He's another guy who is just all-day trucker. He is second in Dwars d'Or. That was after being caught from the breakaway. It was kind of like Christoph, who got in that break last year, and Lascano. I don't think that was a fluke. I think this guy's legit good. He came 12th in E3, 20th in Gen Wevelgem, but that was, he's not a sprinter. But he still made that group. And if you saw that Tirreno stage, he has all day power. I really, really like Abrahamsen. I think he probably will be, ex-best rider in this race.
Was he also not in that Tour de France breakaway last year in the last week?
Yes, with Asgreen. Yeah. Asgreen, without Abrahamsen, Asgreen wouldn't have won.
Yeah.
So yeah, he is really like someone to keep an eye on. But I'm going to pick Mats Pedersen to win, Benji. I think Pedersen wins. I think Milan. Oh, sorry. I mean, I can pick Milan.
No, you can have it.
I'll take Pedersen. I think Trek get it right. I think this race suits them better. Gen Wevelgem, they got it right. where this is a flatter race. Milan comes into as more of a threat, and they beat, because Alpesen's team is so good here, Van der Poel's so good here, but I just think Pedersen on the flat, it's a lot closer to the level, him and Van der Poel, compared to punchy climbs back to back to back.
Okay, I actually think that's pretty fair. I think Niels Paulit is going to end really well in this race. Something in me tells me that Paulit is back at Roubaix. Whether he's going to win, I'm not so sure about that. But I got to stick with what I got, and I don't care about rooting for a favorite in Roubaix. I'm sorry. I've been a Hausler fan my entire life, and in the last years of his career, I can assure you he was not a favorite. So I'm actually going to go for Laurens Rex as my winner.
I mean, I wouldn't call him a favorite. If he wins, I'll say you picked an underdog. I mean, it's Laurens Rex, like, so yeah, that's a nice pick. I'm not going for an underdog really, but I would love to see a random win. It's like when Alison Jackson won last year. It's just so cool to see a different winner, and that moves us on to the women's race. That starts in Denain. They skip the first 12 or 13 sectors and start in Denain and finish in Roubaix. So there's no Trouée d'Arenberg. They start with the online of Wandigne. Man,
Wandigne.
Nah, I don't like it. 149 Ks, 17 sectors or 16 sectors, finishing in the velodrome. The 2 5-star sectors they do are the Mons-en-Pévèle and Carrefour de l'Arbre, so they still have 2 of the 3 5-star sectors, and the first 65 Ks also are a flat ash. I say asphalt. Everyone in the comments on the Flanders video was saying it's asphalt.
It's asphalt for us.
Yeah, I can't say it any other way, I'm afraid. It's bitumen. It's bitumen road surface without cobbles. The first 65
What is bitumen?
Ks. Asphalt.
Sounds like Vitabix. Or what is that? Those cookies for children.
Bitumen is a viscous mixture of hydrocarbons obtained naturally or as a residue from petroleum distillation. You would know what it is, Benji, because your whole fucking country in Belgium hasn't laid a piece of bitumen in its history. It's like what I would call a real road.
Can't believe it, this man. Anyway, what happened in 2023 in this race? Large breakaway forms. SD Works reacted in their usual way, where they're kind of in the mode of like, we're not gonna pace in the peloton all day, so we'll put a domestique of us that has an okay chance in this breakaway in the breakaway itself. Now, vroom, we go further into the race. Last 2 cobble sectors, break still exists. Behind the favorites basically crash, including Kopecky. The break goes on to win the race. Marcus from SD Works crashed in the velodrome. Marta Laak of Serratizit basically does a lead out for everybody. And Alison Jackson ends up winning the race. So that's a wonderful addition. Mainly because SD Works was winning everything, so everybody was celebrating, and SD Works did not win the race. Also, that one of those like severe underdogs, one of the riders that you wouldn't think would be having a chance to win this race, wins the race. That's the kind of vibe again Roubaix has. So that's what happened last year. And going to the last 2 editions of this race, I also feel like there's this clear difference between dry and wet Roubaix in the women's race. Because in wet Roubaix in the women's race, you might as well attack on the first sector. Because we've seen that with Dijknen, because there are crashes, there are things that happen in the peloton that will cause that peloton to reduce their ability to catch on. Teammates will crash out, stuff like that. Then favorites will look at each other. And that's basically how Dijknen won the first edition. So I think wet edition attack as early as possible. Dry edition is slightly different, and their team play comes into it a bit, because then you had the Lamborghini attack 2 years ago, where Cicchini wasn't responding for SD Works, who was not good enough to respond to an attack like that. And then SD Works sold out Kopecky, because then they were riding for Chantal van den Broek-Black for some fucking reason, and Majerus as leaders, while Kopecky was clearly the best rider. So what happened in that team car? I don't know what they were smoking, but anyway, Lamborghini won that edition. I don't know. Looking at the start list again and how the races we've had this year, SD Works is not looking as strong as they were last year, but I still feel like this is Kopecky's better race.
Yeah, I don't know what's up with Kopecky. It's like she's not like in Flanders, it wasn't like she fully cracked. Like she finished really quite well, but she just didn't seem to have the actual level she had last year. Lisa Longoborghini on the provisional start list. We're recording this on Thursday morning. The race is on Saturday. We still don't have, so the race in 48 hours. We really don't have much more than some tenuous provisionals on first cycling. But Longoborghini's not on Little Trek's provisional. She won, as Benji said, 2 years ago.
She's probably going to be there.
She should be there. This is a race that probably suits Balsamo more. Just like with the men's, the flatter it is, the better it is for the classic sprinters like Balsamo, like Wiebers, like even a Charlotte Kool, like Vos. So it really is, I would say, I mean, the racing's been quite open so far this classic season. But it even if Kopecky was in top form, someone like Vos or Balsamo have a decent chance anyway. But I think Trek will be the strongest team by far.
Yeah.
Balsamo, Brand, Van Dijk, Longoborghini, that to me is just so strong. Because there's Kopecky, Wiebers, but that's 2, and with Reusser out, that's 2 against 4 absolute guns on this parcours.
Yes, but I also expect in the last 50 kilometers, Majors to be still be there when a Van Dijk is still there. I think this is Lucinda Brand's best race when it comes to Trek. I fully agree with that. I think if you look at the rest of his D-works, I don't know who's going to be the other riders in the team, but I expect maybe a Femke Marcus, maybe a Misha Bredewold, for example, who I also expect to be strong in a parcours like this. So I think they're not going to be too badly off either. So I do expect that team to be somewhat strong. It just depends on how the other teams react in the early breakaway formation. Will Trek now be considered controlling breakaway next to SD Works?
I think they will.
DSM with Pfeiffer Georgie is one of my candidates for this race. Because I think on the real climbing in RVV, that's where she is a bit meh. But podium Pfeiffer Georgie is in my head.
There's also Canyon SRAM we haven't mentioned, but they have Alice Towers, Zoe Backstedt, Shabby, Paladin, Skalniak Soika on the provisional. I'm keen to see how Zoe Backstedt goes. She, after winning World Championships under 23 cyclocross 19, she has done Drenthe, Brugge de Panne and Wevelgem, but no big results. But with a talent like this, who knows? So keen to see how she goes on the cobbles. Cordon Rigaud at Human Powered Health. EF have been, obviously you have to mention them because they've strengthened this year and come with Alison Jackson, last year's winner of this race. And they have Noemi Rug. Who else they have? Borghese, she's been good. Hentala, Kessler, Lebecki. So they're quite a strong team. No Dygert, though. Sorry, I didn't mention on Canyon SRAM Provisional. She's crashed quite a lot already. Movistar with Odbianic. She's sort of probably the best race for her to go for her own result, typically, as a rouleur. But she didn't fit. I think she's had some bad luck with crashes here before. Gutierrez, Emma Norsgaard is like she's not like broken through in this race, but it's a race that really should suit her well. The Ruiz Perez sisters, which I'm surprised by, and Sierra. Georgie Kool at DSM Firmenich, and I think Rihanna Marcus, was she? I saw on Instagram she's on the mountain. Was she? Like, why isn't Marcus here?
Focus on the Hill Classics, maybe? Pure guess.
I don't know.
Like, Vos is riding all the Cobble Classics back in form for that, so I'm not sure Vos will be able to one of those Hill Classics, especially LBL, especially Flash. Those seem too hard for Vos, in my opinion, so I think that might be the reason towards that. I don't know whether she got injured or something at a certain point, and maybe that's why her preparation was a bit later. But looking at the start list, I still feel like I have that vibe of, okay, this is not a very strong start list. As in, you've got the big teams, you've got some underdogs, but just like the men's start list of Roubaix, it's as if less people show up than at RVV, for example. And I don't know if that makes it easier or harder to predict the race, actually. Because I'm going through the possible scenarios, and I feel like it's going to be a game of chess between Little Trek and SD Works.
I think so, and I think Little Trek are gonna come out on top most likely in that game of chess. But to your point, I think it's like with the men's. There's a rider we'd never mention in an RVV preview that we should mention here, like a Marta Luck, for example. She came sixth last year. She was in the breakaway, I think. And she's also improved, I think. Like this year, she's 12th in Drenthe. I think she's probably improved a little bit since then. I'll say, can these riders win? You got to say yes or no. Letizia Paternoster.
Maybe. I don't.
That's not yes or no.
I'd say just under yes, just in no.
Christina Schweinberger.
With this year's form, no.
Okay. Pfeiffer Georgie.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a few outside.
You're gonna do 3 names and that's it?
No. I'm still going. Amber Crack or Grace Brown.
No.
Okay. Fair enough. So yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe it's not as open as one would originally think, but I think it's going to be Trek. I really think it's going to be Trek. Yeah. I don't know if it's going to be Longo Borghini or Balsamo, but I really think it's going to be one of those two. I would probably go with Longo Borghini. Longo Borghini was the strongest in RVV. They can play numbers. They can control the race. For an outsider, I do like the two outsiders. I think Schweinberger is in good shape. She came 9th in Gent-Wevelgem, and she actually made the split, the first real split with a small group of riders, and she was some other top 10s as well. I really like Schweinberger for it, and Paternoster. If I had to pick like a real outsider to really win, because she can sprint, I would pick Paternoster. I think this suits her more than RVV in theory. With she's getting dropped on the climbs, and she's a sprinter, so I like her for it.
I think I'm gonna go with Lucinda Brandt.
Okay, you think she gets it done?
Yep, she didn't show up on top in the Cobble Classic so far, 22nd in RVV and so forth, but that's also very different races, and she's shown to be very fucking good at Roubaix in the last few years, and I think we forget that because of the other races in the season that she might not be excellent at. So for me, it's clear, it's one of those riders that has a clear underrated potential co-favorite is maybe a bit exaggerated, but a high-end underdog for this race. And if I have to choose any other names next to that, like I said, Georgie, but the thing with Georgie as well, it's like Pauline in the men's race. They have to get away solo because she has some sprint, but she doesn't have the same sprint as Wiebes, Kopecky, as Balsamo. So
we haven't mentioned Wiebes. Like, given how she looked in RVV,
she's fucking good.
Why would she be immediately gapped here?
Well, she might not be gapped, but I just expect SD Works with the riders they have to not choose her as the first option to respond to rolling attacks by Little Trek, which might make it so she never gets to see that front by the end of the velodrome. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand. It's like what happened in RVV. Like when Sharon Van Anrooy screened through, race over for Wiebes.
Question. Luke is harassing us because he's asking us why we don't talk about Ellen van Dijk. And the thing is,
you just picked Brand, a Dutch winner. What more does he want?
I actually believe, like, last year, Ellen van Dijk, one of the top favorites. But I don't know if she's at that level yet. She's coming back from a pregnancy break from cycling, and she's shown to be good in the likes of Gent-Wevelgem when it comes to controlling, but that's very different compared to being at the front of the race and being there every single time. Like, on paper, peak Van Dijk is fucking good at this race. But I don't know if she currently exists at this very moment. So that's why I find it hard to name her as one of the favorites.
And they have 3 leaders I think they'll protect, being Balsamo, Longo Borghini, and Brand. And so eventually you have to have, in a team of 6, some people to do the heavy lifting. And Van Dijk, I think, you're right. She'll be the first, before Brand, before the other 2, she'll be having to do that role like we saw in the finish of Gent-Wevelgem. She closed that race down very well. But yeah, Trek have won 2 of the 3 editions of this race, Paris-Roubaix, Flamme avec Zwift. So the only edition they didn't win was when the break won, when there was the game of chicken with SD Works chasing. So I really think a little Trek are going to dominate because they look even better this year. The only thing that can stop them is, I think, a storming Wiebes if she carries that form from RVV. But final picks, Benji. Who are you going with?
Brand.
Brand. I'm going with Paternoster.
Okay.
I think Paternoster goes with like a Trek rider, maybe even Elisa Longoborghini herself, and she pulls like in Strade with Kopecky. And Paternoster does her.
Am I wrong in not choosing her because she looks too light for flat cobbles like Roubaix?
Who?
Paternoster.
Oh, nah, she's like a classic sprinter, no? She's not like Gaia Riolini.
Yeah, she isn't like Gaia Riolini, but we're talking 1.64 m. We're not talking about a 1.70 m, 75 kind of vibe. I don't know. It might just be me, but
yeah, but
when I think of Roubaix, I think about Alan van Dijk, the monstering over the cobbles, Lucinda Brandt monstering over the cobbles, and I feel like there's a difference there.
Yeah,
but
Shabby,
I agree.
Shabby
she's fucking good at the moment.
Shabby came forward, and she's a puncher. She's small. I'm not sure it holds the same, but maybe she just has. Maybe Shabby's the exception. I would say but yeah, I'm going with Paternoster. I think she's in career best shape, and if it comes to a small group, she can win the sprint against almost anybody except Marianne Vos, who we haven't mentioned, but I think Vos.
Yeah,
but Vos versus Kopecky head to head. I got Vos.
Yeah, easily. Like, she's one of the smartest riders in the peloton. She's one of the strongest riders in the peloton. She's fucking good on a parcours like Paris-Roubaix. So I expect her to be at the front end. The only fear I have is that she won't have. There's no 4 Vosses. Fortunately for the competition, but that also means that she can't respond to every single attack that Little Track does, that every single attack that SD Works does. So she has to choose exactly the right one, which she's good at, but there's a limit to that. So,
which we saw in RVV. She missed Van Anrooy.
Yep.
But yeah, all over.
That's it.
Okay, I'm going the underdogs. You're going the Lucinda Brand.
She's an underdog.
I mean, you're trying to sneak these underdogs in here, Benji, and claim like underdogs. Lawrence Rex and Lucinda Brand. Mate. I'll give you Rex. I won't give you Brand. Not on the strongest team.
You won't give me Lucinda Brand. How dare you?
I'll give it to you, but not as an underdog. They're the strongest team in the race.
Not having it.
You can have it, but I'm not.
The comment section will be on my side, and that's what matters to me.
I don't think they will. I think they'll be like, Lucinda Brand is going to be good. She's a race she can really win. But I'll give you Rex. All right. I hope you enjoyed our Paris-Roubaix Flamme avec Zwift preview as well as the men's preview. Let us know who you think is going to win. Who is an underdog? Who isn't? Am I being uncharitable? I can't wait to watch the women's race on Saturday. It's like a blockbuster weekend. I really like how it's women's on Saturday, men's on Sunday. Make sure you watch both races, and we'll be recapping both straight after they finish.
My women's equivalent of Lawrence Rex is Marta Trouwen.
Marta Trouwen. Okay. Mine was Schweinberger. Because I was like...
She's not an outs. She's like Lucinda Brand.
No,
but not on a favorites team.
Schweinberger's like Rex.
Okay, fair. I'll take it.
Like... Okay, hope you enjoyed both previews. Benji and I are going to keep arguing about this off air to find who is an underdog and who isn't, and we'll see you with a recap on Saturday afternoon. Till then, ciao.